So we're going to be talking about inflammation, pain, swelling, irritation, aggravation, and annoyance. A lot of people who have inflammation, they have, autoimmune disease or thyroid disease or mood disorder or hormone imbalance, or they have some kind of problem with their heart or arthritis or something like that. So these are all conditions. A lot of them have to do with what we're eating, and that's what we help with. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And it can be really confusing, especially if you have a thyroid condition, to know what to do, because there's so many different kinds of healthcare providers. They're all doing something that seems similar, but really they're quite different. That's why it's good to understand more about each person and what they're doing. And inflammation is actually the main marker for heart disease. And heart disease, this is kind of like boring stuff to get you ready, to get you ready for the webinar, which is exciting. So the boring stuff is that C-reactive protein and homocysteine levels are good ways to measure inflammation, which are also measuring if you have heart disease. So a lot of the inflammatory markers are just checking to see how bad a person's heart condition is, or how serious it might be. It's not really something you hear about unless you're involved in healthcare, and then you probably know quite a bit about it. So there's a lot of confusion about inflammation, because when you have a lot of inflammation, let's say we're talking about autoimmune thyroid disease or autoimmune like a rheumatoid arthritis or any autoimmune disease, but especially Hashimoto's and Graves' disease. People who have Hashimoto's and people who have Graves' disease are really finding themselves confused for many, many reasons. One of the reasons is that there's so many different options when it comes to autoimmune disease. It's hard to know what to do. I mean, let's say you have Hashimoto's. Somebody's telling you, oh, you have Hashimoto's. You don't know what Hashimoto's is. You look on the internet, what is Hashimoto's? It says Hashimoto's is when, there's a problem with the immune system and your thyroid's not working right, and you may benefit from medication and you may not, and all these kinds of things. So you have lots of food allergies. It's best to avoid soy. And when we have Hashimoto's or Graves' disease, I don't know if anybody has Hashimoto's or Graves, you can mention it or not mention it. Either way, it's good to participate though. So when you have Hashimoto's, or if you have Graves' disease, you just don't know what to do. And it seems like the majority of the healthcare providers are not even mentioning what Hashimoto's is or what Graves' disease is. And so how are you going to get help if you don't know what the problem is? So the problem is actually a digestive disturbance. So we've officially started. We've talked about the annoyance, the pain, the irritation, the aggravation, the confusion, the upset, the emotional ups and downs that come with these kinds of inflammatory conditions. Okay, my name is Dr. Ilya Skolnikov. I'm as I had mentioned before, international award-winning speaker, best-selling author, and the developer of the Skolnikov Method, New Medicine for a New You. That's the Inflammation Handbook. It's a book that I wrote that was fairly well acclaimed. And in the book, we talk about these hearts. We talk about autoimmune disease, thyroid disease, mood disorders, and hormone imbalances. Think of myself as being like a master puzzle solver, and then yourselves, as being like the puzzles that we solve. I mean, it's literally that straightforward. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go through some interesting things about inflammation that maybe you hadn't heard about before. And throughout that process, I think it'll be eye-opening, it'll be uplifting, it'll be educational, right? Doctor actually means, it comes from the Latin word dotor, which means to teach. So think of me a little bit like a teacher, and yourselves as a little bit like students. All right, so the master puzzle solver of complex health issues that cause pain and inflammation in your body. We like to just stop the pain in its tracks and get rid of it by diagnosing what's causing it. That's the whole key in healthcare, is to find out what's the cause. If you can see, it's easy to see on the right of the screen. That's I was doing a promotion for the Skolnikov Method at New York Times Square and New York City Times Square, and there's like this big 27-foot jumbotron. It was pretty fun. All right, so let's keep on keeping on. We're going to go through the Triad of Health quite a bit. Normally, when you go to a healthcare provider, you're just going to somebody who does one of these three sides of what I'm calling right now the Triad of Health. You see the title is different than the Triad of Health. It says the inflammation handbook, that's what we're talking about. And then we already went through these focal points of the Skolnikov method: autoimmune disease, thyroid disease, mood disorders, and hormone imbalances. So regardless of what disease we're talking about, normally you go to a healthcare provider and there's going to be a structural cause to your health concerns. Like, if you have a car accident, that's going to be structural. You had a whack, and then you're like, oh my God. And then, like, maybe your head hits the windshield. That's a structural problem. But I shouldn't need to explain in detail that obviously you're going to be really upset and you'll have some pain from that experience. So there's an emotional or spiritual component to the car accident. Actually, there's a lady whose name is Louise Hay, and she wrote a book called You Can Heal Your Life. And she talks all about how there are no accidents, really, that everything has a rhyme and a reason. It's a really famous book. It's a good book. You can get the book or not get the book, but I'm just saying it's a good book. I mean, I like the book. Okay. I found it helpful for helping my patients also, really helpful. So we've got structural causes. The person had a car accident. You have an emotional cause. And then if you're upset and you're in pain, you may not digest your food as well, right? If you're not digesting your food as well, then that's a chemical or a nutritional cause. So you got all three aspects of this triad of health. And then wellness in the middle, that's just, think of yourself as being in the middle there. We want a person to be well. Okay, Betsy Nicholas came to our office a while back, and poor Betsy, she was not doing too great. She was scheduled to have her gallbladder removed the day that she came to our office, or not the day, I said that incorrectly. She was scheduled to have her gallbladder removed the week that she came to our office. So she was in a really bad way. She was crying, she was upset. She was, she'd had really bad Bell's palsy. Maybe you can see it in these photos, but you can see how much inflammation she has, obviously. This is before we treated her. So she had Bell's palsy, so half of her face was drooping. She had trigeminal neuralgia. She had a lot of pain in her face. She had headaches since before she was 10. She was 30 at the time, and I don't know exactly when the headaches began, but I know it was before she was 10 years old. So she got started under care, and to make a medium to long, we helped her a lot. She is really in a bad way. I mean, she was suicidal. Her headaches were so bad. She was having to take Advil a couple times a day. The Advil caused her to have stomach ulcers. The stomach ulcers caused her to have lots of bleeding. All the bleeding caused her to need to have blood transfusions. Luckily, she didn't get blood transfusions every week, but she had a number of blood transfusions. And as if that doesn't sound bad enough, she was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And then that's when she came into our office. Okay, so she came to a thyroid workshop that I had done locally in San Rafael. Another title I have, besides being the international award-winning speaker, best-selling author, and creator and developer of the Skolnikov method, I'm also the clinic director at Triad Health Family Healing Center, which is the name of our office locally in San Rafael, California. And we are going to go over, we're going to be offering you this exam. If you're wanting to learn more, you can come in for an exam. And our exam is normally a certain price that we're going to talk about, and we're going to offer it for a discount, which is a ridiculous and embarrassing discount, but we're going to do that anyway. Not to embarrass me in front of everyone, but it's just what we do here to help to build a relationship with you. And we're still accepting new patients, and a lot of people need this help. Actually, people need healing more now than they ever did. Our society is, you might have noticed, not the most well society. Just some basic stats. Death in the United States has gone up 400% since 2019. So there's 400% more deaths than there were in just 2018. Well over half the population is on medication. I don't have that precise statistic, but let's say we're talking about COPD, which is not really the exact same thing as autoimmune disease, but it's an inflammatory condition. COPD, but it's not just the United States. All over the world, there seems to be some type of a health dilemma. I know we've all heard about the pandemic. that's a little bit of an example, but that's getting way off on a tangent if we start to talk about that. So we're going to try to not do that. So Betsy came in and we started helping her, and she did not have to have her gallbladder removed. She ended up losing, she's a little Latina lady who's about 4'9". She ended up getting rid of her headaches, her moodiness, her irritability. She was cutting herself. She was so upset. She was depressed, not just a little depressed. I mean, she was suicidal, that kind of depression. She would always listen to this heavy metal music and not really talk to anyone. She's having all kinds of difficulties with her relationships. So there's still time for me to go over a few things that she said. She gave me like a little review. She said, for years I'd suffered facial pain due to Bell's palsy and from horrible migraines that would last all day long. The headaches were so intense that they would wake me up in the middle of the night. I had to drink 2 to 4 Advil a day just to be able to tolerate them. I was hospitalized from an ulcer caused by drinking so much Advil. I've been overweight since I was 10 years old and had been drinking high blood pressure medication since I was 25 years old. I'm mainly just using her words. I didn't really edit this. For years, I had been so weak that just walking felt unbearable, no matter how much I slept. So it was hard to concentrate, to think. I always felt dizzy and was always in pain. Work seemed unbearable, and I even crashed twice because I felt so sick. She crashed her car a couple of times because her red blood cells were so low from the bleeding from the stomach ulcers. Anyway, I had to reduce my work days to only 2 days a week. I was afraid to work and even became afraid to drive. I lost count of how many times I was afraid to work and even became afraid to drive. I lost count of how many times I went to the urgent care and saw different doctors, but no one was able to give me an answer to it or a solution. All that the doctors would do would just be to prescribe more and more medication. Since I was a teenager, I suffered from anxiety, from self-harm. Since then, it's been very hard to live a normal life. To make things worse, I was recently diagnosed with gallbladder stones and Hashimoto's thyroiditis. I had a consultation with Dr. Ilya. To be honest, that day, I had reached my breaking point. I felt so sick that I felt like I would faint right then and there. So thank you for joining us. If you have any thing you want to say, most of you should be unmuted. So she felt like she was at her breaking point. She couldn't think anymore. I literally went to the consultation crying. I'd lost all hope in doctors. The consultation with Dr. Ilya was amazing. He made a detailed timeline from the time I started getting sick. He listened to me and listened to every symptom I was experiencing. Other doctors would look at me like I was crazy, but Dr. Ilya was so different. Nothing sounded weird or crazy to him. He understood my symptoms, and everything I said was important to him. He did detailed tests and detailed observations. What I like the most about the consultation is that he asked me what I wanted out of the treatment. No one had ever done that with me before. Okay. So this is her after she got under care for a while. I guess it was about 3 or 4 months. Like I said, she doesn't have all that inflammation anymore, and she's happy. Let's see if we can go back to not happy. Let's wish me luck on this one. This is like, yeah. Oh, I can do it. There, she's not so happy. On the right, you see she's pretty not happy. Okay. All right, she's not happy. All right, here she's happy. All right. Happy, not happy. Happy, not happy, happy. Okay, good. I'm glad we could help out Betsy Nicholas. All right. So here we're talking about, this is really important, like as if there's something that's not important. This little symbol on the left is a representation of not only the Triad of Health, but the Skolnikov method and professional applied kinesiology. Oh my God, that word, professional applied kinesiology. Professional applied kinesiology is the study of the interrelationship between different organs and glands and muscles in such a way that the healthcare provider who uses this technique, this applied kinesiology, they can help their patients with things that other healthcare providers can't help them with. So the applied kinesiologist, I am an applied kinesiologist, they can help their patients with, let's say, an emotion that's related to a certain organ or gland that's also related to certain nutritional deficiencies. And to me, it sounds simple and straightforward, but I'm the guy who does it all. So of course I think that way. I'm very biased. But you might possibly think it's straightforward, that if you have a muscle, like this muscle that does this with my arm, that muscle is going to be related to some kind of an organ or gland. It just happens to be related to the stomach. And then my stomach is related to certain emotions. They are actually obsession, egotistic, that kind of thing. So self-centered, oversympathetic, expanded importance of self. Those are all kind of stomach emotions. All right. So anyway, what we're talking about is the exam. The exam is 45 minutes or an hour, up to an hour and 15 minutes. It's normally $300. Like I'm saying, stay till the end because we're going to let people get a discount on their exam. And what we do is different and it's better. It's a better type of examination that allows for really precise, laser sharp diagnosis and treatment to get to the underlying causes of your health concerns. Think of me, again, I mentioned this, I think we hadn't started yet, but think of me as like a puzzle solver and then yourselves as the puzzles that we solve. So once we understand how you got to the point where you're at right now, that means we should be able to help you quickly because we will have figured out what the pattern is that's happening with your health. We're repeating this over and over again, this theme with the Triad of Health. Okay, so just I'm patient if you are, but if you're not patient, I'll still be patient whether you like it or not. So every single health concern that exists has a structural cause, like if you hurt yourself, like a part of your body, like from a volleyball accident, there's a chemical cause or an emotional cause. Do you remember this from before? And then there's also a nutritional cause, meaning people can have nutritional deficiencies, like a problem with their diet, the air, the water, the food, the soil. All these are nutritional deficiencies. Luckily, we will go through this again. So, you don't have to, if you forget it, we're going through it again. So we're talking about the inflammation exam and wellness consultation right now. Graciela Cruz is a patient of mine who came to see us all the way from Central America. I know it's a bit of a distance. So she came all the way from Central America and she was really, really motivated to feel better, but also not feeling well. She was crying all the time. She was really low on energy. She was really, really moody. And she was just overweight. You can see she was overweight. That's obvious. But anyway, she was just really kind of low and down and not so happy. She also had trouble with doing a little bit too much drinking of like alcohol and that kind of thing. So we started treating her, and I kid you not, after 3 treatment visits, within just a couple weeks' time, might have been about 3 weeks, might have been 3 treatment visits within about 3 weeks. I know it was less than a month. Her whole life changed, and she's this really small Latina lady. Again, for some reason, she's about 4'11", and she ended up losing, for her, it's a lot, almost 19 pounds. And because she's so small and she doesn't weigh that much, it was a lot of weight for her. You can see it's pretty obvious, the before and after pictures, I think. I'm used to seeing these pictures, so to me it's obvious, but I know her and everything too. That's a picture of me there. I'm not really dressed professionally, but don't tell anyone. Okay. Cynthia Tom has an interesting story. She used to be a pharmaceutical sales rep, so she was familiar with the Western medical approach. She thought that she'd heard about most things and seen most things, but she hadn't really. So she came to me pre-diabetic, really overweight. She had to see a cardiologist because she was having difficulties with her blood pressure. She was taking an antidepressant. She was taking medications for pain. Okay, so these are her before pictures. She was seeing all these different healthcare providers, and she didn't realize that with the Triad of Health and the Skolnickov method, we do all those things. So we were able to help her with her mood. We helped her with her failed knee surgeries. She'd had like literally 4 or 5 different knee surgeries over the last 16 months. She'd been on an antidepressant for many years. Okay, so that's her story. And let's see if I can get the computer to be my friend. There you can see on the left, this is before she got treated. On the right, this is after she got treated. She lost right around 45 pounds. She didn't have to keep seeing all those different healthcare providers. She got off her antidepressants. She got off her sleeping medication. Yeah, I'm serious. She was taking Ambien for over 11 years. So, and then she just got off it, not like in one visit, but it only took about 5 or 7 visits. It was not that quick. I mean, we're talking several months, but thank goodness for her, because she'd been taking it for all those years, right? Right. Okay, so Okay, the Skolnikov Method, New Medicine for a New You. That's the book that I wrote. It's been well acclaimed and well received. I might share with you a little story. My father was a psychiatrist. One day I came home and my father was asking me, hey, how was your day? I said, okay, Dad, I figured something out. I figured out what I'm going to do for a living. I've decided I'm going to go to chiropractic school and study to become a chiropractor. He says, you know, can you actually make money doing that? I said, well, yeah, Dad, actually chiropractors do pretty well. And some of them make even more money than you do. It's like, okay, that's good then. And to my father's credit, he paid for my entire chiropractic school education. But I can remember there was a lot of conflict in our conversations. Like, for instance, my brother is a marriage and family therapist. So we'd be sitting around the table to eat, and my father and him would connect really well. They'd have a great time talking about psychology. Well, I also do emotional therapies, like we were talking about a minute ago with my patients, since I'm helping them with things that are like depression and a lot of these conditions, especially thyroid disease, well, a mood disorder, you already know what that is, right? I'd said, hey, yeah, Dad, have you ever heard of David Hawkins? He's the well-known psychiatrist who wrote a book and he even he developed an entire map of human consciousness. It's amazing. He says, oh, no, son, I haven't. I said, yeah, it's his name is David Hawkins. He wrote this book called The Power versus Force. And he had all kinds of diplomates of the International College of Applied Kinesiology helping him to develop this map of human consciousness. He says, oh, that is interesting. That's a very interesting theory. So I said, okay, well, I'm not sure what the theory is. He actually had diplomates of the International Board of Applied Kinesiology, that he would do performing muscle tests for him for 19 years. And he was able to determine very deep and vital things about human consciousness. He travels all around the country and lectures about it. He wrote actually 9 separate books, not just one book. It's amazing. He said, that is very interesting, son. That is a very interesting theory. I was like, what theory, Dad? Are you what you're talking about the book that he wrote that you never read or heard of? That you think that's interesting? You think that it's interesting that the muscle testing? You think it's interesting that he traveled around the country? What is it that you think is so interesting? And what's this theory thing? Said, well, I'm not really interested in all that, but I think it's an interesting theory. Said, okay, well, you're not interested? It's an interesting theory. It's like, yeah, I'm actually closed to this thing. I don't really want to talk about it. Said, okay, well, what about Bruce Lipton? Have you ever heard of Bruce Lipton? He's the guy who discovered that we can change our genes. He's the doctor who went to medical school and taught medical students. I said, no, son, I haven't. Well, he's the one who discovered that we can change the expression of our genes by changing our thoughts and feelings and beliefs and environmental stimuli. We can actually change who we are. It's a big deal. Everyone's talking about it. It's all the rage. I thought you would have heard of him. Well, that is interesting, son. It's a very interesting theory. Dad, this guy is the highly regarded medical school molecular biology instructor. He's taught at a medical facility, molecular biology, for over 10 years. He's had a lot of tenure. He developed epigenetics. He's like the big deal in healthcare. How come you haven't heard of him? Like, what's with this interesting theory stuff? Well, that is interesting, son. I'm glad you're interested in that. That is a very interesting theory. Anyway, after a while, I just gave up. He was supportive, but kind of closed-minded. He's a psychiatrist, a Freudian psychiatrist. And that's why I wrote this book. All right. So it's kind of a lot of differences between a chiropractor and a psychiatrist, especially if they're a Freudian psychiatrist. A lot of the therapies that I do are emotional therapies, and they go really deep into a person's psyche. This is kind of like a continuation of the last slide. Here I am at the Philadelphia College of Physicians. I'm talking about the Skolnikov method. Mainly, I'm talking about acne and these autoimmune conditions that have to do with the skin. This is the same place. I'm talking about more and more about skin and the differences between women's skin and men's skin and different kinds of conditions of the skin. This is at the Royal Society of Medicine in London, where we were well received when we went over the Skolnikov method there. And they invited me to speak at Oxford. It was I'm really fortunate to have been invited there. And also Cambridge. This is on the media tour, and the London Stock Exchange, where I got a chance to meet Lord Nigel Farage, who is the developer of Brexit. He helped England leave the European Union, so now their British pound is, well, it was doing pretty well. Now it's kind of, I don't know, not so great. Okay, there's a lot of things that are not so great with the world economy. When I met Dr. Oz, he was a very interesting fellow. He said, you know, the thing about inflammation is we didn't used to know what causes inflammation. Now things are different. It used to be that the way that you would diagnose how much inflammation a person has is by looking at their tongue from traditional Chinese medicine, which is a therapy we use in the office, or by looking at their facial complexion, or by looking at how people carry themselves and their, coarseness of their hair, whether or not they have liver spots, how they're, all this kind of thing. So nowadays, of course, we have leukocytes, and like I was talking about before we started the webinar, we also have C-reactive protein, homocysteine, and all these other different inflammatory markers. If anybody has a question, you're welcome to ask a question. If anybody wants to, that should be the main thing, is to ask something.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Do you help with sciatic and stenosis of the spine?
Yeah, sciatica and stenosis of the spine can be two different things. They're not necessarily the same thing, but yeah. Who's talking? Who are you? Who's talking?
Rebecca.
Rebecca. Oh, hi, Rebecca. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah. So stenosis of the spine is what happens when there's a chronic inflammation that's been going on for a long time, and it depends on, we can help, but it would be interesting to find out more about you specifically, right? Like what's causing I'm assuming it's you we're talking about, your spinal stenosis, or
Right.
is it, go ahead.
It's me. It's me. I have that.
Yeah. So if you have that, then it all begins with the exam. That's the most important starting point. It's a good question. Okay, Rebecca got like 20 points. All the rest of you are lagging behind, but don't worry, there's still time.
Because I'm in chronic pain right now. They gave me
Uh-huh.
the steroid injection. The first one I received, it worked. The second one I just received, it has not worked. It didn't correct anything. And now I'm just frustrated where I just want to get the nerves burnt.
I see. So you're in the kind of category that we were talking about at the beginning, the frustrated, annoyed, irritated, aggravated, and confused. So spinal stenosis is not necessarily a death sentence. It means that there's been chronic inflammation, which is severe, that's caused a narrowing either of your spinal vertebra. Either way, it sounds like it's probably affected your spinal cord itself.
Right.
So so you're probably having problems with your lower limbs as well.
Right, I am.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. So there's going to be a structural cause, a chemical cause, and an emotional cause. And when we address all three causes, you end up feeling much better, much faster. See, what they're doing is, I'm biased, right? It's not like I am telling it to you everything straight, but I have an opinion, obviously, right? So
that's why you're a chiropractor, like you, right? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I'm a chiropractic kinesiologist. We're still about to go over that, but we use herbs, homeopathy, nutrition, flower essences, emotional therapies.
My question is this: if I was to come in and do your exam, because I already have my MRIs, I have all of that kind of stuff. My question would be, how fast would the pain go away? Because this pain is pretty unbearable. Right now, I'm able to talk to you, but while I had you on mute, I was having a couple of flare-ups where the pain goes up the leg and, to the back. So, and I'm not sleeping. I've lost so much sleep. It's not even funny. If I get an hour to a night, that's what I'm been doing for the last, 3-4 months.
Yeah, really good question. So these are the things that we need to cover during the exam. So the purpose of the exam for everyone listening, not just Rebecca, is to find out what's wrong, how the therapies we do can help you. And if, as long as we understand what the pattern is and we understand what's wrong and how we can help you, that's good. That means we can actually help. I have patients similar to yourself who are completely out of pain, sometimes in one visit, sometimes in 2 visits, sometimes it takes 3 visits or 4 visits. But we don't know any of that until we've examined you and found out what's causing your symptoms. Just
Right.
as an example, let's say we're talking about just somebody else who's on here. Don't get me into trouble when I say somebody's name wrong or I give a terrible example. Just be on my side, guys and ladies. So Karen's here. Oh, her last name is Polite. Oh, it's a nice name. So let's say we're talking about Karen, and Karen maybe has a similar, almost the exact same thing. She has spinal stenosis. In theory, she doesn't, but let's just say. So she has different parents. She's had different experiences in her life. We want to find out everything you and anyone else has done throughout the course of their entire life that would have led up to the symptoms that they're having now. Once
Right.
we understand what makes you you, that means we should be able to help. And it's a process. So I think I did not answer your whole question because we haven't done the exam yet, but do you see where the answer would go? Would go, step 1, we diagnose. Step 2, we treat. Step 3, we observe the results of the diagnosis and the treating. But we can't do any of that until we've started the exam. So that's the beginning diagnosing point or part.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you're pretty quiet, but yeah, sure. So I'm sorry to hear about what you're going through. Okay,
Okay. All right. Thank you.
sure thing. Yeah, actually,
Can I ask you a question though? Brief question. Is it? I know you probably won't recommend the burning of the nerves, but doesn't that take away the pain that since you
okay,
have?
everybody listening to this and Rebecca, I mean, thank goodness you're asking this question because these are the questions we need people to ask. You have nerves for a reason. There is no such thing as a burning deficiency. If I have problems with erections, which fortunately I don't, it doesn't mean I have a Viagra or a Levitra deficiency. It means something's causing me to have a problem with my erection. So if you're having this problem with your spinal stenosis, it doesn't mean you need to have a nerve burnt. That's what they call harm or non-conservative. It's drastic. You can't undo the burning or damage done to a nerve. So I'm not saying it's bad or good. I'm just explaining facts, which are important, So if you can't undo it, you want to seriously consider all your other options before following through with that. I mean, in our office, we've never had anyone we weren't able to help in 7 or 9 visits with pain-like symptoms or headaches. With you, spinal stenosis, it doesn't mean we can help you with your spinal stenosis, but the pain would likely be something we could help with because we have so many therapies to help with pain. We don't know anything until we've done the exam. So I might actually end up muting you just so we can get through everything. But did I answer the basic thing that you're asking? Is that it's first do no harm in healthcare, right? So that's the Hippocratic Oath. First do no harm. But what do we see in healthcare today? What is Rebecca telling us? The very foundation of everything that they're doing is harmful. The FDA is approving drugs to make money. They're not approving drugs to help people who need the drugs.
No, none of the medicines that they've given me have helped. I've stopped them, matter of fact, on my own without even saying.
Right.
After the fact, because I'm the type of person that'll look up, do my own research before I start taking something. But they're usually trying to give psychiatric medicine for pain. So that's what kind of throws me off because even though I have what I have, I don't feel I'm depressed. I just feel frustrated because I'm not getting the pain taken away and I can't walk and I'm missing out on life. And it's been over 2 years that I had sciatica for a long time, but this pain that's coming to my body right now, I don't know how to even explain it. It's like I'm being electrocuted all the time. And
oh my God,
it's just bad, put it that way. That's why I was reaching out to you. So I'm just trying to figure out what I can do to alleviate the pain so I can lose weight. Because they want to give me a surgery as well for the back. They want to give me a back surgery because they said my back is pretty messed up. But in order to do that, I need to alleviate some of the pain so I can go back to walking and moving around. And I'm not able to do that right now. I mean, I'm very limited. my ice packs on me right now. But the problem with that is it got to a point where I couldn't even put the ice. Right now, I can't put heat on the heating pad. That just jolts me real bad. It gets, I guess the nerves get so angry or whatever that it just jolts me. And I can't do that.
Uh-huh.
Also, I have the bad pain where I'm screaming. I'll end up screaming because the pain doesn't stop.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So-
we're going to be going over how we help people with pain. So, and that's our specialty. So we don't even have a pain clinic. We don't manage people's pain. We just get rid of the cause of the pain.
Right.
I'm
That
trying
would
to
be
just
good.
send you something here, but
Can I ask you a question? Can you hear me?
yeah, sure.
Hi, my name is Terry. Hi, doctor.
Hi, Terry. Dr. Lee
Hi.
Scott. Good to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. How come you can't see me?
I
Or is
see
it
it, don't I? Yeah, wait, no, I see T's iPad. That's not Terry.
That's me, but
Yeah, that's you.
can't you see my, don't you want to see my face? No,
I
I'm
see your
just-
face. Part of
Terry,
it.
you
I
can't
see half of your
over.
face. Yeah.
Sorry. I'm lying down.
No,
Sorry.
you're fine. No, you have to push your screen if somebody wants to see. There's other people there.
What
Okay.
are your thoughts on I'm sorry for your pain, Rebecca. I'm
Thank
hearing
you.
you loud and clear. I have spinal stenosis too. It doesn't seem to bother
Oh my
me.
God.
I've had
Okay.
2 hip replacements. I'm 63, out of shape, about 40 pounds overweight. But I've just experienced unbearable nerve pain in my legs last week, the week before. What are your thoughts, doctor, on, I'm not pronouncing it right, cranotherapy? You know, when you dunk in cold nitrous something, not water, but I was thinking of trying that. I don't know what to do with my pain as well.
We just
And
get
my
rid of
neck,
people's pain by addressing the cause. We don't have an issue in our office. I'm having an issue with my chat, but we don't have an issue with it. That's what I was saying is we got rid of Betsy B. Nicholas's headaches. She didn't need to have her gallbladder removed. We helped Graciela. She had a lot of pain too.
Mhm.
You just haven't been to anyone who has the right therapies to help you or understands what's the pattern that's happening with your health. So that's kind of the challenge there.
So we're talking about inflammation. I was told 20 years ago, I have a body like a 90-year-old because I'm one big inflamed human being.
Right. So why is that though, do you think? What's
Well, it
causing
has to do with diet, with everything you're saying,
that? Okay.
right? Physical,
Yeah.
mental, nutrition, diet, everything. It's a whole, it's not just one thing, you know, it's
Yeah.
hereditary. My father needs 91. He needs 2 hips, 2 knees, 2 shoulders. I don't exercise, I walk. And this nerve pain, it's unbearable.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
Sorry. So yeah, so it's good that you're here. It sounds like you're going through a lot. Why not just address the cause and get rid of it so you don't have to deal with all this craziness anymore? That's what you're wanting to do.
True.
Evander Holyfield, good guy, he said, you know, life is about believing. And the reason why he said that was when he was 8 years old, he had a boxing coach that his mother approved him to go and get boxing lessons from. And he said, you know, coach, you know, I'm happy I'm able to take these lessons, but I just got to make sure my mom's okay with it. So then the coach said, yeah, you know, I think everything will be fine. And he said, you know, one day, Evander, you could be a world champion heavyweight boxer. And Evander said, well, I'm 8 years old, coach. I mean, how am I going to be a world championship boxer? And at the time, his birthday was only in like a few weeks. So the coach said, you know, you're not always going to be 8 years old. And then sure enough, he stayed focused on the boxing. He believed in himself. And that's his whole thing is he's very religious. He's actually fairly spiritual. And for him, life is about believing. And he ended up finally becoming a world heavyweight boxing champion. When I met Drew Pinsky, he had just gone through the whole COVID thing. And he was saying, you know, no matter how difficult life becomes, there's always hope. We don't need to let the past determine the future. We need to allow it to. So he was saying that if he hadn't had so much inflammation when he got COVID, that it wouldn't have been so serious when he ended up getting COVID. So inflammation was a really big deal. He's a really nice, down-to-earth kind of fellow. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He has this Love Lines radio show he used to do in LA. for many, many years. This is Dr. Mark Siegel from Fox News, who was saying that cocaine is bad, drugs are bad, it's better to have a natural life and to remain calm. And the therapies we have are natural therapies. They're helping me to remain a little bit calm when I have no chat button. Okay. So Tony Robbins is this self-help guru that some of you might have heard of before, maybe you haven't. And what Tony Robbins always used to say is that life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. So it's not what happens to you in life that matters, it's how you respond to what's happening. So some of you and all of us are saying we have these symptoms, we don't like it, but it's how we respond next that makes all the difference. In other words, if we decide that maybe the symptoms are telling us something and we can learn something from it and ask ourselves different questions, then we can get to a different point with the symptoms. Like my patients, you know, they have symptoms for a few visits and then they don't have the symptoms anymore. And then sometimes they have difficulty with their lifestyle changes and their symptoms come back. But since we're addressing what's causing the symptoms, it takes a while for them to come back unless they're causing their symptoms. I mean, eating a bunch of donuts and getting drunk is definitely going to cause a few symptoms here and there, but you know, it's better not to do that, right?
Just very curious about what kind of therapies you're doing with your patients. So can you give us like an example of what the therapy was like for the first case study that
Yeah, thanks for asking. So with Betsy Nicholas, we used herbs, we used chiropractic adjustments, we used nutritional supplements, and we really figured out what was wrong and why she was having so much trouble with her gallbladder, with her Hashimoto's, with her diet. And we did that answer your question or did it not answer your question? I think I came close at least.
It did, yeah.
Yeah.
But
so
now
here's the therapies, Angelica. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say this slide is what I was waiting for.
Okay. So yeah, Dog the Bounty Hunter is a really good down-to-earth person. His wife died of 4th stage cancer. I never met his wife, but he said if she hadn't had so much inflammation and if there had been somebody like myself who, it's almost like in his words, he said, I know there's a cure for cancer that grows from the earth and that 90% of healthcare providers just don't know about that. And, but if people could meet somebody like me, I mean, I even have colleagues that do a few of the things that I do, even though I developed the Skolnick method, then his wife might still be alive today. So normally when you go to a healthcare provider, you're going to somebody who does just one of these 3 therapeutic options, right? You go to a surgeon, chiropractor, acupuncturist, physical therapist, or massage therapist if you want structural therapies, and you go to an internal medicine specialist, maybe an acupuncturist or a nutritionist, herbalist, homeopath, or somebody who uses like flower essences or vitalistic therapies if you want chemical therapies. And then if you need emotional therapies, you have to go to a mind worker or somebody like my father, a psychiatrist, or somebody like my brother, a marriage and family therapist, or a psychologist or a social worker. There's not like one person who does all 3 therapies and has all those therapies at their fingertips. So the Skolnick method is very unique in that we have all these different therapies in our toolbox to help our patients with. There is this thing, I don't know, sometimes I'm just talking because I like hearing myself talk, but I'm glad you're listening at this point. There's something called psychoneuroimmunology where people can, a lady named Candace Pert, who discovered the opiate receptor, she never got credit for it because she was working for a man who was the doctor, and it's really sad, but she ended up never getting credit for it. But she discovered this thing called psychoneuroimmunology, which means you can provide structural, chemical, and emotional therapies for people. Here's another example of how do we help people, okay? Because I understand the relationships between muscles and organs and glands, muscles and emotions, muscles and nutrients, muscles and homeopathic remedies. Muscles are really important. You're listening to what I'm saying, you're having nerve pain, you have spinal stenosis, you have whatever you have, constipation, diarrhea, gas, bloating, headaches, hair loss, moodiness, feeling angry all the time, whatever you're having trouble, sleeping, feeling like crying, those kinds of things. We have the therapies that are really effective because we understand how one part of the body is related to another part of the body. Okay. So a lot of what we're doing goes back 100,000 years, literally, to traditional Chinese medicine. As you can see here, it's pretty clear that if a person has problems with their lungs, they have all these different kinds of emotions like grief and sadness, crying, deep sighing. And those are also emotions that are related to the large intestine. Okay. So when I say okay, it just means I like saying okay. It doesn't really mean anything. I just like saying okay, okay, okay. Kind of like, you know, somebody who's hungry, they're like saying, you know, that kind of thing. All right. Mark Anthony Stevens, poor guy, he had headaches for 36 years. I kid you not. Headaches for 36 years. How did we get rid of his headaches? Excellent question. I appreciate your asking. We use the structural, chemical, and emotional therapies. Believe it or not, he just had one treatment visit. I don't want to embellish the truth. It took a long time to help him with his headaches, like 4 hours or so. But after the 4 hours, we'd gotten rid of the headaches he had had for 36 years. Okay, so the therapies are effective because we have them, and I have training and skills that the other people that you've been exposed to, I'm mainly referring to healthcare providers mostly, they just don't have that same training and those same skills. I mean, it took many years of my life to learn these therapies. Okay, I mean, we've helped 6,000 people over the last 16 years, and it took about, you know, it took a good 9 or 10 years to learn all these therapies or more. All right, so good job. I'm glad you got better, Mark Anthony Stevens. I'm pointing to the screen. I'm not pointing to you. I'm pointing to the computer screen. All right, so this is Arlene Cato. Poor Arlene had Graves' disease. She was either burning hot or freezing cold, and she couldn't get any relief. She had tried this little bit of progesterone. She'd tried this blood pressure medication. She'd done all these different things, and nothing really seemed to, I wouldn't say it didn't help, it just didn't help that much. I mean, she took this blood pressure medication and it was so strong, she ended up actually feeling suicidal for a little while, which is really disturbing. So she couldn't be in places where there was a lot of noise. Her job required her to interact with people, but when she had an event, she couldn't even hang out at the event because she was so freaked out with, if she smelled like somebody's perfume or something, she'd have to run out of the room because she felt so bad. She locked herself in a closet at one of her events for her work. She couldn't walk up and down a street very well. One day she had to call her boyfriend to go pick her up. She lives in San Francisco, when she'd been walking up a street because she got so exhausted. So we started treating her. We got her off her little small tiny bit of progesterone she was using, and we got her off her blood pressure medication that was making her feel bad, and her methimazole. Methimazole is this medication that slows down your thyroid. And she was doing really, really, really well, and has been doing really well ever since then. It took a while. It took like 8 or 9 visits, but man, I mean, her whole life has changed around. Let's keep on keeping on. This is Elena Saxton. She had Hashimoto's thyroiditis. That's the autoimmune thyroid condition. Graves' disease is the hyperthyroidism. Hashimoto's is about 99.99% of the time the hypothyroidism. These are both gut conditions. Autoimmune conditions are gut problems. There's infections of the gut that are unresolved. So with Elena, she couldn't work properly. She did go to work, but as soon as she got back from work, she was so exhausted she'd have to lie down for a while. Then she'd make herself something to eat. Then she was so exhausted she'd have to go to sleep. I mean, she was doing that like that was her life, you know. She couldn't go meet with friends, even though she's a very sociable person. I mean, she looks sociable there. So that was after we treated her for a while. She was like nervous about being in public. So that's Elena Saxton's story. So we helped her. That was the point. And now she didn't need her small amount of progesterone that she used to take. Both ladies were taking progesterone, both Arlene Cato and Elena Saxton. And she didn't need to take all these different amino acids she was taking and everything. All of her symptoms were gone. Her energy went up. She wasn't exhausted all the time. She improved her relationships. She did not get a new boyfriend, but she got engaged to the boyfriend she had. I mean, everything was really going pretty good. So the ways that you can get help with inflammation are obviously doing the exam, getting help in our office. One great tip would be to drink enough water. A lot of people just don't drink enough water. And so water helps your body to release poisons and toxins. It's a good idea to drink about a quart for every 50 pounds of body weight. It says that on the screen there. Now everybody's been muted. I muted everyone. I muted the same people that was making all that. It was just the one lady. Okay, and then another good idea would be to eat enough protein. So a lot of what I do in my office, I don't know why the other healthcare providers aren't doing it other than that they don't have the training, but a lot of it's just common sense, which is protein has the bradykinins and the amino acids and the chemicals that you need to get rid of pain. Bradykinins fight pain. Enkephalins and endorphins fight pain. They're all made out of protein. So protein is very important. DNA is not made out of protein, but you can't have DNA without protein. I don't know if that makes sense or not. So a lot of the conjugating of dinucleo, DNA and RNA and mRNA and tRNA is can only happen in the presence of protein. So protein is really important. It's in every cell of our body. Your cell membranes of all your cells are made of protein. Protein comes from the Latin word proteus, which means of utmost importance. I think you're getting the idea. Protein is very important. Okay, so let's go to the next. That's kind of we're near the end here. So I said I was going to go over with you, give you the discount and go over everything with the exam. So this is our path to health chart. It's part of the Skolnikov method. And what we want to do is we want to help you go from the symptoms you're experiencing to feeling good as fast as we can, right? I mean, you want to get rid of the symptoms. It's important to you. It's important to me. We want to do that first and foremost. And then once we get rid of the symptoms, the pain, the irritation, the aggravation, the pain causing you to feel like you need to have a nerve burnt, which I am not recommending. Once we get rid of that pain, then you start feeling better. Then we can correct and strengthen the organs and glands that led to the pain to begin with. And then we can help you with neurologic hormone and brain support. And we can help with feeling good. A lot of times what happens is this is like a fire. The person, we're talking about you're feeling terrible. You have a lot of whatever the symptom is, pain or constipation or diarrhea, bloating, whatever, cloudy thinking. And so as soon as we get rid of those symptoms, you actually feel good, but we're just barely correcting and strengthening what's caused the symptoms. In other words, a weak organ or gland the weakest link in the chain is usually what's led up to the symptoms. Okay, I think there's just a few more slides. This is what's on the door of our office, the Triad Health Family Healing Center logo, just in case you're wondering what it looks like. It's easy to recognize that. Okay, this is the exam that y'all were asking about. These are some of the therapies that we do. If anybody has a question, you can ask. So we have a private consultation with the doctor. The whole exam lasts about an hour. Because of the amount of depth that we go into during the exam, where we just have a limited amount of space, we're very thorough. We really take our time. Like I said, the exam can last anywhere between 45 minutes and an hour and 15 minutes. So, we're working on a first come, first serve basis. So I'll send you all a link, assuming that I can. There's the link.
Question. I'm just curious, does your office accept insurance?
Oh yeah, that's a really, really, really good question. I'm not just saying that, although it may sound like that's all I'm really saying. Our office does not bill insurance. So what happens is we have a variety of affordable payment options that are so affordable, pretty much anyone can afford them. And like when you go to the grocery store and you want to pay for food, you can't give them insurance, right? And so healthcare can be a little expensive. In our office, it's not so bad. I mean, our therapies are extremely affordable. I'm kind of upset about it actually, but yeah, I mean, we have people coming in are paying $35 or $65 a month for care. Other people pay a lot more. People don't pay a lot less than that. But yeah, like I said, so we take all different forms of payment and have a variety of affordable payment options. I'm pretty
you.
sure that I'm answering that question. Yeah, so good question. So the cost, it's like, imagine that, you're not talking to me, but you're just talking to some other doctor. Let's pretend they're a medical doctor of some sort. And if it was Elena or you or somebody coming to the doctor asking for help, the doctor just doesn't have the therapies or skills to be able to help because they don't have the training. So it would take well over 30 or 40 or 50 visits just to be able to get the results that we get in our office with one single treatment visit. Now, I definitely appreciate that it sounds like I'm bragging and that may not be pleasant to hear, but I am bragging a little bit. And I'm also describing how our therapies work, which is important because that's what you want to know about. So people really do get all those results because we have a way to use all these different therapies to give people the exact therapy in the exact order and the exact right way to get the best result. And most other, you'd have to put together all those different healthcare providers to get the results that people get with our therapies. We do not accept Medicare. We tried it once a long time ago, and apparently Medicare is not a very good system, even though it's necessary and important. A lot of healthcare providers have had problems all over the country with Medicare. So we are, trying to stay out of trouble by not getting into trouble with Medicare. So that's part of the thing with Medicare. Okay, so yeah, I sent everybody the link. If you look in the chat box, even though I've had tremendous challenges with the chat, you should have gotten the link in the chat box. I can send it several times if you want, but that link will allow you to schedule. Like I said, this is a first come, first serve basis. So the entire exam, instead of being $300, I will still show my face in public after today and let you know that it's not $300 if you're listening to this. Again, you probably want to schedule pretty soon while there's still space. It's only $47. And I think we have enough space for everyone on the call for the next week and a half, but I'm not absolutely certain. So I don't want to, say one thing and then do another.
Can you hear me, doctor? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I can hear you. You're not interrupting at all.
Can you I don't want to start with the chat because I don't know where it is. I don't have patience. Can you after you get off, because I want to see you Wednesday morning. Want to see you ASAP. Can you just send by text or email or no? Like, cause you text me.
Sure, but I don't have your. Can you text me?
Oh, because your office did it. Your office.
Yeah, just text us
Okay.
back, and then I'll text it to you. But so you're having trouble with the chat too? I guess it's just a human thing. You're like a human, like all the other humans.
Yeah, I don't know where it is. Somewhere around here.
You're gonna get. I'm gonna take care of you. You'll get a notice soon. But if you want to speed it up, you can just call 415.
Okay.
Let me do that. Hold on. 415-459-4313. You can use our website to talk to us also. There's a chat box on our website.
You're saying it's Tried to Health Net? Is that it?
Yeah. If you look at the chat, there's a link to be able to schedule yourself in.
Okay, got it.
I just booked. Yay.
Okay, great. Good for you. Awesome. I've really enjoyed the webinar. It was very interesting and entertaining. And I did not do the chat dilemma on purpose. That was actually a real live accident. So I hope you thought it was funny. So thanks a lot for joining. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you in the office. I think I answered the main questions, but don't lose hope. I mean, that's what a lot of these celebrities that I had met, that some of them became my friends, are insisting on. They're saying, it's not the thing that happens. Like, I like what Tony Robbins said. It's how you respond to what happens. You may be really uncomfortable and having a lot of trouble. And now is an opportunity to do something different. We can't do the same thing over and over again and expect our results to be the same. I mean, different, the result will be the same. Okay. All right. Thanks for joining, and over and out.